Hey everyone, Jamie Meloni here, host of That Business Show 2.0. On today's show, we begin talking with David C. Barnett, private business sale advisor, and Matt Miller, founder and president of School Spirit Vending. Hello everyone, Jamie Maloney, your host of the all-new That Business Show 2.0, where business becomes show business. Each morning we talk with different business owners and entrepreneurs about what makes them successful and hear their stories of success and also failure. And we'd like to hear your story too. To get on the program, simply go to tbsinterview.com. And you can learn more about the show and see us each and every weekday morning at 7 a.m. on tampabayradio.com. In addition to Facebook Live, we do stream it inside Facebook at the group That Business Network, also on our YouTube channel over at thatyoutubechannel.com. We're talking about business brokerage today, buying and selling businesses, and 12 things you need to know before you consider selling your business. We've got David C. Barnett with us today. He's a private business sale advisor and author of the book I just mentioned and multiple other books as well about buying and selling businesses, and you can learn more about him throughout the discussion at davidcbarnett.com. So David, welcome into the program today.
Hey, thanks Jamie for having me.
So first question, you're a private business sale advisor. I'm in real estate myself. I do residential sales, but to me that's a business broker. Tell me the difference between what you do as a sale advisor and a business broker.
Yeah, sure. I got into this industry back in 2008 as a business broker. And so traditionally, what a broker does is he lists a business for sale and then goes about trying to find someone to buy it. And then eventually, once the deal is done, of course, then a commission check is written. And what I learned over 3 years in business brokerage, and I was quite successful. I sold over 36 companies for other people. I had these crazy cash flow roller coasters, up and down, up and down. I went through droughts, sometimes as long as 10 months without a deal closing. And I was the owner of my office, so I still had my overhead and all these bills to pay. And what I realized at the end of 2011 is that I had so many great deals on the table that were being upset, not by the buyer, the seller, or myself, but by these other people outside of the deal that I didn't have any control over. And I realized that it just wasn't something that was going to allow me to plan for my future and my children. So I said, there's got to be a better way to do this business. I left and actually left the industry and went and got a job somewhere. And then the phone started to ring. People started to call me and say, hey, I want to sell my business. I heard you're the guy who can help me. And I would say, I'm sorry, I'm not in that business anymore. And then literally a week after that first call, another person called me who said that he'd been referred by another friend of his. And he said, I'm trying to buy a business and I've spoken to my accountant, I've spoken to my lawyer. They're giving me advice, but they're not able to sit down and really work through this with me and help me negotiate and help me figure out what I should do next. And I paused because obviously it was the market trying to speak to me. And what I said back to the gentleman is I said, look, I have a job now. I can help you. I know this stuff, but I'm going to have to work with you on evenings and weekends and charge you like a consultant. And without missing a beat, he just said, all right, well then can you meet me Saturday at 9? And that's when I realized that there was an appetite for people to have someone at their side to walk them through the process of buying or selling with or without a broker involved, but to have someone on their team that they knew was working exclusively for them. And for the people who sell their businesses with me today, there's something inherently unfair about the brokerage model. I'll give you an example of what I mean. When I had a really great business for sale, I would sell that business and then charge that person 10 or 12% commission, and they'd write me this huge check. Meanwhile, I would also have these other businesses for sale that weren't quite as good, and I would work equally hard on those, but those people wouldn't pay me anything for my time. And I realized that the people who had built successful businesses were actually subsidizing my efforts towards people who hadn't. And which I don't think is fair, to those successful entrepreneurs.
So how did your model change as a private business sale advisor? Do you just charge a flat fee now? How do you market the properties differently? Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, I don't act as an agent. So I'm a consultant, and what I have is a menu of services that I work with both buyers and sellers. So when sellers come to me, I've got this 5-step process, and they can work with me through as many of the 5 steps as they wish. So the evaluation, the packaging, the marketing program, the coaching and advising, the education, they choose what they want to do with me. And as I do each step, I bill them for what I've done, much in the same way that your accountant or lawyer bills you for the work that he does on whatever particular thing you're trying to do that day, whether it's deal with your taxes or a legal matter.
Now, do you assist both people selling a business and people wanting to buy a business today?
I do, yeah. And I don't generally work for both parties at the same time. I'm
Right.
either on one side or the
But you
other.
do work both sides of a deal. You're not just strictly a seller's agent or a buyer's agent, though. You do work
Yeah,
both
that's
sides.
right.
Okay.
I work on both sides, and it's funny because sometimes buyers and sellers will find each other, but neither of them really knows what they're supposed to be doing or how to move the deal forward. And I've actually been invited sometimes by both parties together to come and have a meeting with them and give them some direction together on what they need to do and what a possible deal could probably look like for the two of them.
Yeah, I've been involved in some business deals, and it's there's no standard for how to run a business, and so when you start looking at people's books and their policies and procedures and how they do things, I mean, you got to kind of unravel the mess of each person's business, especially if
Yeah.
you're dealing with solopreneurs, small business owners who intermingle so much of their personal and their business. It can be a real challenge. So, what tips can you give? Or actually, let's go on to our topic here, which is with the title of one of your books, and this will probably come up, but it's 12 things to do before you consider selling your business. So take us through, I don't know if we'll be able to cover all 12, but take us through some of these things that we need to consider.
Yeah, sure. Basically, the what I noticed over and over and over again is that people that were coming to me for help to sell their business kept coming with the same issues in their business. And I thought, if people just knew how to better run their business so that it was more sellable, they'd be able to sell these businesses far more quickly. So I'll give you an example. And you mentioned, commingling the personal and the business stuff. People need to pay themselves a salary and keep their household budgets and their business activity completely separate. That's an easy one right off the top. Um, the other things relate to things like debt and the way that you borrow money or use capital in your business. I've had a lot of people over the years think that they need to pay off business debt, for instance, in order to get their business ready for sale. And what I always teach people is that business debt, in particular, things like leases on equipment, can actually become built in financing for a buyer. If they can come in and assume certain liabilities that you have in your business, it can make it easier for them to come up with the balance of funds that they need to buy your business.
How assumable is business debts versus, when you buy a home, for instance, mortgage assumabilities are not as common as what they used to be. But on the business side of the equation, how easy is it or how likely is it that somebody could assume leases on equipment and buildings?
You can always make a deal to take over debts, whether it's simply that you agree to pay the payments to the seller. And the reason that buying a business is so much different than buying a house is that normally when you buy a business, there's some degree of seller financing. So the seller's kind of tied to the deal for a couple of years afterwards anyway. So if you approach a leasing company, for example, and you say, look, I'm selling my business, this new guy's going to take over the payments, they're more than happy to add the new person's name to that lease agreement because it gives them more security.
Mhm.
They may not release the original owner from that agreement. But if the original owner has to stick around and collect payments on the what he's owed for a couple of years anyway, it really doesn't change the risk profile of the deal for that seller.
How often does the business owner in the deals that you do have to stick around and kind of walk the new owner through the business? And for how long do they usually have to stick around and help the new owner out to get on their feet?
Yeah, the transition period depends greatly on the type of business. So, if you can remember maybe Jamie to some jobs that you've started earlier in life where you got into a new workplace and people had to tell you what to do. After a few weeks, most people are pretty much up to speed. If it's sort of a retail or service business, something a little more complex like business to business sales in a wholesale environment, you might need that seller to stick around for a couple of months because you need to transfer the goodwill of the relationships from the previous owner to yourself. The thing that I like to do, which I think is a little bit innovative, is I always ask for an immediate transition period. For example, having the seller stick around for a couple of weeks, but then I'll put in some kind of recall. so that the buyer can ask the seller to come back maybe for 4 full days in the year following. And what that does is it allows the new owner to get in there with the seller, learn the business, and then when the seller goes away, they can start to take notes of the oddball things that show up, the problems maybe that weren't apparent in the beginning, or maybe a customer issue, and then have that seller come back just for a day on a quarterly basis and work through those issues. And that way the seller can act a little bit more like a coach to help them, say, that problem you had with that guy, I had a problem like that once too, and this is what I did. And so they can advise on how to properly steer the ship.
Now, you mentioned staying around to transfer the goodwill from the prior owner to the new owner, and so many businesses, struggle with that, association that the business is that particular person, and I talk a lot about this program about you really need to separate yourself from the business from day one and develop a brand that you can step outside of. It's, part of it is you want everybody to know, like, hey, I own the business, this is me, I look at what I've done, but really you're kind of stepping on your own feet there, are you not? Because then when you want to go to sell it, people associate you with that business, and now you're having a hard time to sell it. Talk to us a little bit about, that.
Yeah, no, it is a big problem. That's the problem of personal goodwill, because everybody knows the owner. In an extreme example, in certain industries, what I've had people do is the business is sold, but nobody is told that the business is sold. It's kept secret.
Mm-hmm.
And what they start telling everyone, and usually the owner has to stick around for 6 months to a year to make this work, is that everyone says that the new owner is actually the partner. And so the seller of the business starts to tell everyone that he has a plan to retire or move on. So he's taken on a partner to help transition the business, even though the partner actually is the new owner.
Right, but it still takes time and a lot more investment on behalf of the prior. Go ahead and continue.
Yeah, it takes 6 months to a year, and the thing is, people's time is valuable. And so what that does is, if the new owner has to pay a salary, for example, to the seller for a year, that's going to impact that purchase price. It's going to cause it to go down. To your point, the value of the business gets eroded because we need to engage the seller for more actual work for a longer period of time.
Good information. Currently talking to, again, David C. Barnett, private business sale advisor, author of multiple books, of which we're talking about 12 things to do before you consider selling your business. These books are available on Amazon, as well as on his website, davidcbarnett.com. We got another segment with David when we come back from the break. In the meantime, learn more about this program at tampabayradio.com. And if you'd like to share your story with us, please visit tbsinterview.com. You're listening to That Business Show 2.0 with Jamie Meloni, where business becomes show business.
Hi, welcome to Yeager's. We just want to take a minute and show you what we're all about. At Yeager's, our primary business is hardwood flooring, although we are remodelers for kitchen, bath, and general construction. We operate a fleet of shop-at-home vans that have all the flooring-type products, hardwood flooring, laminate flooring, tiles, stone, what have you. So we're able to come out first with products in our vehicles and take a look at the setting, how the colors will work, and then to be able to come up with some options and ideas for you. If that's not good enough, we have a large distribution center that we inventory product and have a nice display area.
Jackie Skelton from JR World Travel here. If you travel, you need a licensed professional travel consultant, not a computer. Your licensed professional consultant can get you more for your time and your money. Value for your money and experience, not marketing salesmanship. When you're sick, you call the doctor. When you need legal advice, you call an attorney. So the next time you want to go on any type of travel, call your licensed professional travel consultant who actually represents you. We specialise in group travel, family reunions, weddings, to escorting large groups or making special arrangements for the disabled. Please call 844-249-0190. We are a full-service travel consultancy offering worldwide concierge service. Air, land, sea, rivers, resorts, locally, nationally and internationally. Remember that number, 844-249-0190.
Welcome back, everyone, to the all-new That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Meloni, where business becomes show business. The topic for today is business selling, how to get your business ready for sale with David C. Barnett, Private Business Sale Advisor. Learn more about him, David C. Barnett. And so, David, we're talking about some of the things to do when you're ready to sell your business, or just even to get the business ready for sale, even when you begin to, develop the brand, the importance of branding that business early on so you're not associated with the business personally. What are some other things that we need to consider to get our business ready for sale?
Yeah, one of the biggest problems that buyers have is that they're worried that they're not going to be able to figure out exactly what goes on in the business. So I've seen this over and over again. And as you know, most small businesses, the individual who runs the business kind of manages almost all the top level functions and often in their head. And that's a big problem because a buyer is going to assume that it's really difficult, that there's some really secret sauce kind of recipes that need to be understood in order to make the business work. And oftentimes that's not the case at all. So I have to encourage people a lot of the time to actually get things down on paper, processes, systems, et cetera, and to document the things that have been going on in the business. If a buyer comes along and he says, I'm worried that if you leave the business, all of the customers are going to go away, and you're able to respond with, well, here's how we get customers. We use a postcard campaign 4 times a year, and these are the markets that we've covered, and this is the times that we've mailed them. And our postcards have a special phone number on them. When people call that number, it goes through a cloud-based service where we record the calls and it comes into our front line, and we can actually track the number of calls, and we can listen to the calls and see how our employees answered the calls, et cetera. And you break it all down. This is what we do to make people come through the door and choose us. It's much easier for a buyer to understand that they're going to be able to simply carry on with the same processes. That systematization is so valuable. It's what makes people choose, for example, franchise businesses over standalone businesses.
Right, they're set up, they have their model, they have their standards and practices. How often do you see the solopreneur, the small business owner, with a process and procedure manual or an SOP, standard operating procedure book? Is that common amongst the businesses that you've been involved with?
It's extremely rare. It's extremely rare even to see a small business with an org chart with descriptions for the different people in the organization. It's one of the things that I do when I work with sellers. If they have time and they want to improve the value of their business, is I'll help them do some of this stuff. And it's amazing when they realize there are certain business tasks that every business should have, like looking to the future, forecasting, checking out new technology, and nobody in their company is doing those tasks at this moment. And then they start to realize maybe why they haven't been growing or prospering the way they wanted to.
So that's a good tip right there. I mean, just having the manual, the processes and procedures, the job descriptions, that's going to improve the value, because now I'm more comfortable taking over your business because, okay, I see how you do that. Okay, I got this. Okay, so now I'm more willing to pay more money too. So what's another tip for enhancing the value of a business? I mean, that's a great tip right there. Can you share with us something else that a business owner can do to help enhance that sales price?
Yeah, I mean, at the core of everything, the value of a business comes down to the cash flow. People who are buying a business are buying 2 things. Number one, they're usually, if it's a small business, they're buying a job. So they need to be able to envision themselves doing that role, being the owner of the business. But they're also investing. And when you invest, it comes down to how much money do I have to hand over? What is the risk involved? And what are the cash flows going to be coming back to me? So the bigger that cash flow is, the more valuable it can be. And it always amazes me, particularly with successful businesses that have been profitable over the years. Maybe they paid off all their bank loans and they have excess operating capital in the business to finance receivables and things. And they start to get lazy. They start to get sloppy. They don't collect as well as they should. They have too much inventory. They're not running a tight ship anymore. And things like regular price increases start to slip. And when you compare them, because when I do evaluation work with my clients, I do benchmarking, and I've had to show people that they're as much as 30% less profitable as their peers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it has to do because they don't have a banker nipping at their heels.
Where are you getting the peers numbers? Because business valuation, isn't a business valuation usually a multiplier of the net income, compared to the other businesses around? How do you know what the other businesses are really doing? Is it just because you're a private business sales advisor, so you see different things? But how can somebody who maybe not have that information know what the other businesses are doing?
Yeah, anyone who's involved in business valuation who's been properly trained has access to databases. So you're right about the multiplier, but that's just one of the different methods of valuing a business. We also look at other transactions and companies that have sold, and we look at what they sold for as a percentage of their sales. And we can tell, so for example, in a given industry, if businesses sell for 30% of sales or 2.4 times the seller's discretionary earnings, if the valuation by sales gives a higher value than the multiplier one, then you can tell you're looking at a company that's underperforming its peers.
Interesting.
And then vice versa. And then in addition to that, there's also a few databases and reference resources that I use where common industries, it'll show an average breakdown of their costs. So it'll say, for example, cost of goods sold should be 27% in this industry, labor should be 12%, et cetera. And so what I'll do is I'll line up those benchmark references when I can find them to the subject company and then show the owner, this is how you compare to all the other subject companies that are part of this sample universe.
Good information. Again, David C. Barnett, author of 12 Things to Do Before You Consider Selling Your Business. So give us another tip. What else do we need to be aware of when we're getting our business ready to sell?
Yeah, don't tell anyone. It's got to be confidential. Letting people know that your business is for sale can destroy it. I've seen too many examples of people who thought selling a business was like selling a house or selling a car, and they start to let people know. And, of all the different stakeholder groups that we have, employees, customers, suppliers, bankers, competitors, all of those people, if they find out that a business is for sale, can react negatively in different ways that can really kill a business. It's something that is the most important thing.
It's a challenge with businesses because it goes against the idea that the more exposure you have for a product, the higher price that you're going to get for it. So, but with businesses, that's not the case. And so, how do you properly market a business? You get just a business advisor, a business broker such as yourself, and hope that they have a big enough sphere to market it effectively for them?
Well, business brokers will use online business for sale websites, and they'll use confidential listings, and marketing and advertising is something that I do for my clients as well, but people can still do it themselves. When I wrote the book, How to Sell My Own Business, the first half of the book is all about brokers actually, and how to choose the right broker and how to test the potential broker to make sure you're really dealing with someone who's qualified. The second half of the book is where I lay out the process of this is how you do it on your own without a broker. And I talk about that in the book. And basically, it's about advertising the features of the business. So, when I advertised, for example, a franchised family restaurant for sale, the ad would read, franchised family restaurant for sale, sales of 1.1 million, seller's discretionary cash flow 170,000, located in this region. And it would be a broad region so that people can't guess. But who I want to be attracted to that ad are people that have an interest in owning a franchised restaurant. And that's the number one thing. Remember, I said when people buy a small business, they're buying a job and investing in a business. So you don't want your information to be aired to everyone because the machinist looking for a machine shop isn't going to respond to that ad, and that's fine. We don't want to talk to him. But somebody who has an experience in hospitality, maybe they've managed a restaurant, they've had some savings in the bank, and they want to get their own thing on the road, they're going to respond to that ad. And then we sign a non-disclosure agreement and start to give them a little bit more information.
What's the typical marketing time for a business that's in order? And I guess this is probably going to depend on what market you're in. But when somebody wants to sell their business, with a house, I will tell people 3 to 4 months in our market. What do you tell people when they ask you that question? How long and how much am I going to invest in selling my business?
If it's priced right, you can usually sell a business anywhere between 4 months to a year. If there's other, this gets a little bit deeper into it. But for example, if a business owns a piece of real estate that they operate from, if the seller is willing to divide the two, if they're willing to sell the business and become the landlord, the business can be sold quite quickly. But if they decide that they want to keep the two things together, then not only do we have to find a buyer who has the capital to buy the business, but they also have to have a down payment for a commercial property. And what happens is the more things you lump in together into the sale, the more difficult it becomes to find a buyer that has sufficient capital. And so you can probably understand that there's a lot more people out there with $50,000 to put down than there are with $250,000, right? And that's the number one thing. That's the number one thing that people constrain themselves with, is they lump too many things in together and they start looking for that unicorn buyer, the guy with industry experience, good credit, a lot of capital. And, quite frankly, the people with a lot of money, they know they have a lot of money and they use that money to beat you down on the price. So as part of the preparation of the business for sale, so one of the things that I go through with my sellers is I show them how they can format the sale to make it more attractive to a wider audience.
Very good. How is the market in terms of supply and demand in your area? Down here in Tampa, we're seeing a much more demand from younger people to get into business, to start their own business, to run businesses. What are you seeing just on a kind of a broad level? An increase in demand or an increase of supply of businesses?
There's always a huge demand for businesses that are easy to operate. So your dry cleaners, your corner stores, your gas stations, things that a really broad number of people can get their heads around how to operate. The ones that always struggle are the ones that are a little more specialized. I once tried to sell a French artisan bakery, and I worked on it for 2 years. And the problem with a French artisan bakery is you need a French baker. And the way that you get a French baker is you take a 12-year-old child and you put them in a French bakery, and about 10 years later, you get a French baker. And so the seller was the baker. And everyone else who looked at the business, they knew that if they had to hire a French baker, that they would just be at the mercy of this employee, and no one had the courage to do that. And I couldn't find another French baker that wanted to buy it.
Well, good information and a good closing story there. David C. Barnett, private business sale advisor, author of multiple books, including 12 Things to Do Before You Consider Selling Your Business, available on Amazon and also on his website, davidcbarnett.com. So, David, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Jamie.
And again, you've been listening to the all-new That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Meloni, where business becomes show business.
Hi, welcome to Yeager's. We just want to take a minute and show you what we're all about. At Yeager's, our primary business is hardwood flooring, although we are remodelers for kitchen, bath, and general construction. We operate a fleet of shop-at-home vans that have all the flooring type products: hardwood flooring, laminate flooring, tiles, stone, what have you. So we're able to come out first with products in our vehicles and take a look at the setting, how the colors will work, and then to be able to come up with some options and ideas for you. If that's not good enough, we have a large distribution center that we inventory product and have a nice display area.
Hello, everyone. Jamie Meloni, your host of the all-new That Business Show 2.0, where business becomes show business. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. on TampaBayRadio.com. All shows available on demand on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, multiple places, both in audio and high-definition video. We want to hear your story. If you're an entrepreneur, a business leader, or a community leader in some capacity, we talk to people from all levels of business, all levels of success and failures, because we know that all of our listeners are in various levels of business successes, failures, operations, and industries. So reach out to us, tbsinterview.com, if you'd like to come onto this program, tbsinterview.com. So my guest today, Matt Miller, founder and president of School Spirit Vending. I'm interested to hear about this. This is a nice little franchise operation that he has set up after his time in the Air Force. So making the transition from the military into the life of an entrepreneur, something that we talk about on this program a lot, how military veterans struggle with entering the workforce. And Matt's done a great job with his new business here, School Spirit Vending. So Matt, welcome to the program today.
Hey, Jamie, thanks for having me on.
So first off, tell us about this product, School Spirit Vending, and what this is.
What we do is we work with schools across the country, helping them raise money in a more passive way. We custom design school spirit stickers for the school with their mascot and their colors and all that. Then we place the sticker machine in the school, and it ends up being an ongoing fundraiser for them. And it ends up being a pretty unique business opportunity for families within a given area who have a desire to develop a secondary income stream on a limited time commitment and do business as a family.
Okay, so this is a console that goes inside the schools, centered around school spirit. So you mentioned school stickers, for instance. And then what, is it like a vending machine? People can go up and put some money in and then they would get to the product and whatnot?
Correct.
Okay, what else other than stickers comes out of the machines? Is it strictly just the products? Is there any food, candy, and drinks involved with this also?
Stickers and pencils are what we do exclusively.
Just those two products right there. You built the whole industry around stickers and pencils, huh?
Yes, sir.
Interestingly enough. All right, so tell us then how this idea evolved. Where did this come from?
Well, like you said, I was in the Air Force. I was actually a pilot for 9 years after graduating from the Air Force Academy. And I transitioned to the corporate world once my commitment to Uncle Sam was up, and was doing extremely well, but learned pretty quickly that in the corporate world, especially with publicly traded companies, the rules are always changing and they never seem to be in the employee's favor. And there were some decisions that were made that significantly impacted my family's finances, put us in a big hole. So I was looking for something to do on the side that I could help make ends meet with. Initially, I collected aluminum cans. I sold used books on Amazon and on Alibris, Barnes & Noble for a while. The challenge was I had read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Jamie,
Absolutely.
and many in your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought into Kiyosaki's whole idea of passive income. And so I was looking to develop something that I could do passively that over time would allow me to make money while I was sleeping. And Kiyosaki, of course, talks about real estate primarily in his book, but I didn't even have enough money to own my own house at the time, let alone have rental properties. So that was out for me. But a good buddy from church mentioned gumball machines, and that struck a chord with me. And I realized that, the gumball machines did all the work. I didn't have to be there, and I could continue to pursue my career while building, this vending business on the side. So got my first used candy and gumball machine about 13 years ago from a guy across Houston on eBay where we lived at the time, placed it. And that's kind of the beginning of my whole vending journey.
Are you still in the vending business outside of the School Spirit Vending? Do you do other types of vending operations?
We got to the point where I really needed to focus just on this as our team grew. So I ended up selling off my route down in the Houston area to a good friend of mine. And it's still performing and doing its thing on a monthly basis.
I was going to ask, how, lucrative is the gumball business these days? As a kid, I can remember putting my quarters in and getting the little gumballs or the little different products. Do they still, I don't even see those as much as what I used to, at least not down here in Tampa. Are they bigger business? I know you're out of Texas. Are they still in a lot of the stores?
Oh, it's alive and well. Yeah. And what most people don't realize, you look at a gumball machine, you're like, okay, yeah, whatever. But most people don't see real money in a quarter. But here's a news flash. A gumball has 1,000% markup. So the margins are huge.
Yeah.
And so even though I had a really, really big nut I had to crack with my income at work and a family of 5 to support, there was a lot of profit in those machines and in that vending.
You know,
And so,
go ahead. I was going to say, I was
so
going to have to.
that was the foundation of it all.
I was going to say, I tend to probably agree with that. I can remember watching the movie pretty recently, Black Mass with Whitey Bulger, and they talked about how they were involved in the vending machine racket. They were, you know, one of the things that they were going out there and, you know, knocking over the people on those routes and everything. So there must be a lot of money in it to be able to take care of those types of guys. Whitey Bulger being a criminal up there in the Massachusetts area. But yeah, that was one of the rackets they were involved in, was the vending business. I was like, vending business? I mean, is there money in that? So apparently there is, and I'm learning today there's a huge markup on that. So for people out there listening, looking for ways to get a secondary income or, you know, a new business, you know, vending business is a possibility for you, including these school spirit vending machines. So tell us how this business works for people that would like to get involved with the school spirit vending.
So we are a franchise, like you mentioned at the top of the show, and we, over the last decade, have perfected our model. You know, there's a lot of people out there that would really like to own a business, but they don't know how, or they don't feel that they have the time or want to take the energy to figure something new out. So we give them an opportunity to step into what we do, to learn the processes that we've learned and perfected over 10 years. And instead of starting at ground zero where we started, you know, start at the top of their game very, very quickly. To give you an idea, Jamie, the average franchise in America today costs about $125,000. That was 125,000 reasons why I didn't have a typical franchise.
Right.
But our business is much less expensive to get involved and get started with. Startup is less than 20,000 when it's all said and done. So it's accessible to just about anybody in the process.
So what does $20,000 get you? I'm on the website again. This is ssvbusiness.com, and I can see the consoles, the vending machines there. Do you get the machines with the initial purchase? Do you get 1, 2, 3, or do you have to buy those separately? How does that?
Yeah, I mean, there's the franchise fee is $10,600 of it. We have a mentorship program where we link new franchisees up with one of the veterans on our team for 6 months. And that veteran actually is required to go and help you in your local area for a couple of days as well. So that's a couple thousand. The product and the marketing materials needed for the first 5 schools is about another $3,600. And then the equipment for the first 5 schools is right around $3,500. So,
and then as
all in, people are looking at about 19.7 to get started, learn all they need to learn, and have the stuff they need for their first 5 schools.
And then their job is just going into the different schools and trying to get them placed into schools then, correct?
Correct. Partnering with local schools, showing them how our program can benefit them and their kids.
And it's a fundraising opportunity for the schools. So how does the money work? Is that up to the franchise owner, or is there a defined split that X goes to the school, X goes to the business owner?
Yeah, there's a revenue share with the school, and you know, so we do all the work. They just have to cash a check every month based on that revenue share.
Now, how receptive are the schools to these to this vending machines? Is it district to district, or is it kind of, you know, level across the playing field there with as far as interest in these machines?
We've seen huge interest. You know, 2 things that are really lacking with schools today is money and volunteers, and we step in and kind of fill the role in both cases. We're not going to replace some of the other fundraising that they're doing, but you would be amazed, Jamie, with the type of needs these schools have that our program will help them with. I just got a notification from one of our franchisees yesterday on our intranet internally, where one of the schools she's working with, they used the money to send a couple of needy kids who didn't have the money on a field trip. I met with a principal here about a year ago in Grand Rapids, Michigan at an event, and I asked her what she was going to do with the money, and she said lice kits. And I said, what? Say again? She said, you know, like head lice?
Yeah.
She said, our district is getting so much money from outside sources for technology. We've got laptops and tablets and all that coming out of our nose, but we don't have the basics. And in her school and in that environment, she needed lice kits. So the first thing she was going to purchase with the extra money was that.
Wow, incredible. Now, talk to me, when did the franchise start and how did you get that off the ground? How long before the franchise started to blossom?
Well, we started in business 10 years ago. Like I said, initially we were a distributorship and a licensing model until about a year and a half ago when we officially started franchising. We realized there were some parts of the country that we weren't in, that the business laws and environment is such that we were advised to become a franchise in order to do business effectively and legally within those states. So we made that transition and have flourished ever since.
Currently talking to Matt Miller, founder and president of School Spirit Vending. You learn more about this at ssvbusiness.com. Simple vending operation that goes into schools, and it dispenses pencils and stickers aimed at promoting school spirit on a revenue sharing model with the school and the franchise owner. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about the advantages of a franchise, and if you're a business owner, how to begin franchising your business. Also, I want to talk with Matt about his transition from the military into the world of entrepreneurism. A lot of people struggle with that transition, so I want to have him share with us some of his techniques or ways that he was able to make that transition so effectively. You're currently listening to the all-new That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Meloni, where business becomes show business.
Hi, welcome to Yeager's. We just want to take a minute and show you what we're all about. At Yeager's, our primary business is hardwood flooring, although we are remodelers for kitchen, bath, and general construction. We operate a fleet of shop-at-home vans that have all the flooring-type products, hardwood flooring, laminate flooring, tiles, stone, what have you. So we're able to come out first with products in our vehicles and take a look at the setting, how the colors will work, and then to be able to come up with some options and ideas for you. If that's not good enough, we have a large distribution center that we inventory product and have a nice display area.
Hi, Jackie Skelton from JR World Travel here. If you travel, you need a licensed professional travel consultant, not a computer. Your licensed professional consultant can get you more for your time and your money. Value for your money and experience, not marketing salesmanship. When you're sick, you call the doctor. When you need legal advice, you call an attorney. So the next time you want to go on any type of travel, call your licensed professional travel consultant who actually represents you. We specialise in group travel, family reunions, weddings, to escorting large groups or making special arrangements for the disabled. Please call 844-249-0190. We are a full-service travel consultancy offering worldwide concierge service. Air, land, sea, rivers, resorts, locally, nationally and internationally. Remember that number, 844-249-0190.
Welcome back, everyone, to the all-new That Business Show 2.0. I'm your host, Jamie Meloni. You can learn more about this program at tampabayradio.com, and all of our shows are available on demand on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, and multiple other podcasting sites. Over 500-600 different shows, thousands of different interviews with many professionals from a variety of industries and a variety of levels in their business. And again, learn more about us at tampabayradio.com. And if you'd like to share your story with us, please visit tbsinterview.com. Today we're talking with Matt Miller, founder and president of School Spirit Vending. You can learn more ssvbusiness.com. So Matt, when you went into this business, you were, again, first you went into the gumball vending business, and then you saw this opportunity here with School Spirit Vending. Did you have the idea, or did you have the vision of going into making it a franchise, or were you just initially just setting this up as a one-stop shop for yourself?
You know, Jamie, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be a franchisor today. It wasn't even on my radar at the time. I was just looking to pay the bills and like I said, get ahead for myself and my family. The one thing that I did, though, that set us up for success is, coming from being an Air Force pilot, we live our life by checklists. You've got the before takeoff, the takeoff checklist, the after takeoff checklist. I mean, you've got to have a script to follow, because in an airplane like that, there's so much chance of messing up and killing people. So since I was used to living that life as a pilot, it made sense for me to do a similar thing in business. So not really knowing it at the time, I was putting systems in place based on what I knew that allowed us to very, very easily transition into being a franchise, systems that were easily duplicated by other people.
And that's why people pick up franchises, because it's a ready-made business model. And we talk a lot about this program on how many business owners don't have SOPs or standards and policies, books, things of that nature. But a franchise, that's the benefit of a franchise. Here's how we do everything. And your time spent in the Air Force, you were used to systems and processes. So did you begin to immediately always write down and get your systems and you kind of lined out on paper, or is that something that you did after the fact?
I mean, initially I did it in my head, but yes, eventually we put it on paper and, started putting stuff online for our team and that type of thing. One of the things I've done, Jamie, along the way that has been huge for our team and our community and our culture is I became a podcaster here a couple of years ago, and have done something I think that's unique to the podcast world, at least to what I know so far, is I started 2 private podcasts just for our franchise team a couple of years ago. To date, I do a show every Tuesday and every Thursday morning. I bring on successful franchisees. I bring on outside experts who can talk and speak to topics that are pertinent to our team. And that has become our primary means of communication and teaching. And it has been a huge, huge benefit to everybody.
A private podcast, that's something interesting. I'm obviously a podcaster myself. I have a local business network, Tampa Bay Business Owners. That just, jogged an idea in my head that maybe I should be doing a private podcast for just our business group, because it's a membership model. We have different local events in Tampa Bay, and the podcast that I do here, I was on radio for 3.5 years and just recently moved it online. But that added value to your franchise, the private podcast?
Big time. See, most of our franchisees heard me on a podcast, and that's why they had interest in what we do. So they're already in the podcast mode. They're already used to listening to them. So they get involved and find out they've got 150 episodes that they can listen to over the first couple of months. And man, they can absorb themselves in all things SSV right out of the chute without having to wait on anybody, because that content is evergreen and it's there for them to listen to at whatever pace they choose.
I never thought about that for my own business here locally. I like that idea. You just gave me a new idea I might explore. Maybe do some episodes specific just to my membership. I like that idea very much.
Yeah, provide some more value for them, and some more behind the scenes type stuff and that type of thing. I bet they'd love it.
Absolutely. Now, how difficult was it getting your business set up as a franchise? You talked about having the systems and processes in place. What steps were required after that to begin getting your business into a sellable franchise model?
So, I contacted my attorney, and in the firm that he works with, they've got a franchise attorney leg or arm of what they do. So a lot of it was getting with an attorney. I had done some reading on franchising, bought several books on Amazon and that type of thing as well, just to get kind of up to speed and educated. But ultimately, it was that attorney who knows the law and who gave me about 20-page questionnaire that I went through with him over the span of a month or so, um, many of which we had already figured out, and it was just a matter of me putting it on paper. Some things I'd never even thought of before that we had to put in place. But he took all that content and then put it into the template, the franchise disclosure document template that they all use. And the franchise disclosure document, or FDD, is the foundation of everything in relation to the franchise and in the presentation of it.
Was it difficult making that first sale, or did the first sale come fairly easy for you making that franchise sale?
It's funny. I did a short YouTube video, and I grew up in the Chicago area outside of Illinois. So I posted that video on my Facebook page, hoping that some of my buddies from high school would see it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe want to bring this back home, so I'd have an excuse to go back there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, none of them heard it, but a guy who I've known for years, who sat 2 rows behind me in church. We talk every Sunday, but it was always about estate sales and auctions and that kind of thing, because we had that mutual interest. Within 5 minutes, he Facebook messages me and says, "Matt, we need to talk." Well, he was about ready to retire from a major defense contractor in Fort Worth, and this was a perfect fit for he and his wife. So that was pretty easy. It took about another 5 months before we sold our second one.
Mm-hmm.
And since that point, Jamie, we have, in the last little over a year, have sold 62 franchises.
Wow, incredible. Talk
We've
about passive income.
we've really struck a curve with busy professionals who want to diversify and who potentially want their families involved so that their kids can learn entrepreneurship as well.
Wow, incredible entrepreneurial journey that originated with your time as an Air Force pilot. Now, let me ask you this, because this comes up a lot. How did you make that transition coming out of the military into the world of entrepreneurism? For you, was it an easy transition, or was there some turbulence involved in that transition?
There was a lot of turbulence. I went through a number of junior military officer hiring conferences to get my job in the corporate world, initially in the hospital medical device industry, and then after about a year and a half in the advertising world. I liked the additional freedom and that type of thing. The entrepreneurship side really, though, occurred out of necessity, because we were in such a hole. I was able to look at the corporate comp plan and know there was no way I was going to work my way out of it, no matter how big a book of business that I sold. So I had to jump into this world in order to provide for my family. And along the way, I realized, oh, you know what? I may actually be able to get to where I don't have to work for the corporate world anymore, like Kiyosaki talks about.
Mm-hmm.
But initially, it was purely, man. To give you an idea, Jamie, we were at a low point where I literally got turned down for a payday loan.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need a credit rating for
Right.
a payday loan.
Yeah.
But I had 3 bank overdrafts the month before, and you got to bring a bank statement in and show them that you got a clean slate there, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So here I am, quote unquote, America's finest,
Yeah.
former Academy grad and Air Force pilot, having to scramble for a couple $100 at one stage.
Wow. Well, you definitely turned the tide on that bank statement there, it sounds like, with 60 franchise sales here in just the last year, and continuing to grow here with School Spirit Vending. So what is the big challenge, though, that keeps military veterans from returning to the workforce so effectively? Is it because it's so structured in the military and so unstructured in the world of business that there's a disconnect between those two types of lifestyles? How would you elaborate?
I think there's a lot of that, but I also think that there's a fear. We're always taught in the military that Uncle Sam is going to provide for you, to provide benefits, healthcare, all those kind of things, and it's kind of the boogeyman. Wow, what am I going to do? How am I going to cover those things? Well, what I learned is it's not that big a deal, and there's so much more freedom in it. to have control of your life, to be able to come and go as you please, to not have to take leave to go anywhere, to not have to worry about being on alert or being called in when you got something else going on family-wise or otherwise.
Now you have we got a couple minutes left. Do you have an offer that you wanted to extend to our listeners? Go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, Jamie, I wrote a short ebook called Live Your Dreams, the top 10 reasons why you need to own a vending business. It's just a couple pages, but it gives some insights into vending that most busy professionals have never thought of before. And I'd love for anybody in your audience who would like to download that and get some more insights, and if interested, maybe even talk a little bit about what we do as a franchise if that interests them. They can go to ssvbusiness.com/that-biz, B-I-Z, show, and download that for free and begin a dialogue if they like.
All right, very good. And we got about a minute left or so. What territories are open around the states here for people that would like to reach out for you? Is it pretty much open across the nation with regard to school spirit vending?
Yeah, we've got, like as an example, in Florida, we've got a good portion of Florida available, outside of Tampa, part of Orlando, anywhere between Orlando all the way down to Miami, and the eastern coast of the state. We have some states, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico, that are completely sold out because we started business down here and have been doing it here for a long time. But otherwise, there's a lot of opportunity in other parts of the country. And
well, people just got to reach out to you and they can take advantage of that free ebook, ssvbusiness.com/thatbizshow. And also check him out over there on ssvbusiness.com. Some FAQs over there on how to get started in the franchise business with school spirit vending. So a good discussion, very inspirational from Matt Miller, founder and president. So Matt, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks, Jamie, for having me on, and God bless you.
Absolutely. And again, ssvbusiness.com. You can learn more about this program at tampabayradio.com. All shows available on demand on iTunes and on YouTube in high definition. And if you find us on iTunes, we also are there as a video cast. So simply type in That Business Show 2.0 video cast, and you can see the videos on iTunes as well. A lot of people don't realize that you can have a video cast on iTunes as well. So we always like to remind the audience of that. And to come onto the program, please visit tbsinterview.com. You've been listening to the all-new That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Meloni, where business becomes show business.